I remember when I was 13, a Rothmans-sponsored Porsche 911 doing great things in the Middle East. That sort of started something rather big, didn't it?
That was 30 years ago this month, in fact, where we took a 911. We took it straight from the factory in Germany. We took it out to the Middle East. We put our local driver, Said Al-Hajri, in the car, and we won our first event. So it was first international rally. Went on to win the Middle East Championship after that, and as they say, the rest is history.
What was it that made you decide to come away from a professional, world championship winning career as a co-driver to run your own operation? Why the change?
I'd always wanted to have my own business and run my own company and run my own team, in fact, and so it was great fun with Ari as a co-driver for a few years, and we're still great pals as well today. And but building an operation like Prodrive and building teams is a lot more rewarding than just being a single competitor, if you like, even as a two-man crew of a rally car.
I suppose the early relationship with Porsche was a signal that you were someone who was going to have a relationship with a manufacturer and take them to motorsporting success. I mean, look at the names: BMW, Aston Martin, Mini, Subaru. What's the magic touch?
Well, it's part of the philosophy of the company that we really want to work with the manufacturers. We work on manufacturer programs, and in fact, that's fundamentally all we do these days, and that we try to do it at the highest level, whether it's World Championship or certainly at a very senior level. Of course, behind that, we've got a lot of customer support programs. Aston Martin's a very good example of that. So whilst we're running the World Championship for Aston Martin and Le Mans and events like that, we still have perhaps 100 Aston Martin race cars out there for different customers all around the world. I had an email middle of the night from South America saying we've got a race in Peru on the 8th of February. Can you send some of the people out to help us, please? So that's the sort of thing that goes on.
And then, of course, you got into the British Touring Car Championship, which you were incredibly successful at, first with BMW and then with Ford. Did you think, I've mastered rallying, let's have a go at racing?
Well, there are lots of similarities between production-based race cars, the touring cars, the British Touring Car Championship in those days, and what we're doing in rallying. And in fact, with the car we were rallying was based on a BMW M3 touring car. So we actually went the other way around. We went to BMW and said, we thought your car could make a good rally car. And of course, our first World Championship win in Corsica came with that car. And then we thought, well, let's go touring car racing. And subsequent to that, we won 5 titles with different people. We ran with, first of all, with BMW, obviously. Then there was Honda, there was Volvo, there was Ford, there was... God, I've forgotten somebody now amongst it all, but there were quite a few manufacturers we worked with then.
The philosophy of people, race fans, identifying with what they're watching is still very strong, isn't it? It's an important part of touring car racing.
I think so, and I think, if I'm honest with you, that's the problem we've got with the World Rally Championship today. I think the people, as well as identifying with the cars, they want to aspire to them as well. And GT racing has captured people's imagination recently. The Blancpain series is full entries. The World Championship is very strong as well. The cars people love to see, it's the Aston Martins, the Ferraris, the Porsches, the Lamborghinis. And they look great, they look spectacular, they're quick. Unfortunately, the World Rally Championship, I think the core product, the car, is just not exciting enough these days. And I think that's what the fundamental issue is for me.
Your final foray in the BTCC was with Ford. It was a 1-2-3 in the championship. In very much the heyday of super touring, it got ridiculously expensive and high-tech, didn't it? It couldn't last.
Well, I think we were at the end of that period. We were running a V6 engine, very complex car, and it, you're quite right. But these things, that's how they go. They're cyclical. You sort of try and write a set of rules to keep the prices down. Everyone finds their way around it. There are sort of, it's very difficult for the administrators, the FIA or the MSA in this country, to keep control of those situations when you've got some very bright engineers looking for the way around the regulations. But there is a fact that whatever regulation you write, it will the amount you'll spend will be in direct proportion to the value of the championship. So if you actually took Formula One today and you said, we're going to make it GP2 rules tomorrow, I honestly don't think the budgets would change very much, because that's how much it is worth to win for Red Bull or for Ferrari. and the money will be spent in different places. The drivers will get the money, there'll be different testing arrangements, something will happen, and the money will be spent.
Do you think Ford sold a shed load of Mondeos off the back of that dominant BTCC performance in 2000?
I very much hope so. It was the, as you say, it was the dominant car of that year, and championship wasn't decided between Anthony Reid and Alain Menu till the last race in the series that day. But it was, I think, the days when sort of motor racing sells motor cars is, win on Sunday, sell on Monday, is not quite the same these days. But I do believe that it does have a very strong place in the marketing profile of car manufacturers. Otherwise, you wouldn't see them so involved, would you?
It's not necessarily the whole package, the hardware. It's all the little bits underneath, isn't it? The technology transfer.
It is. It's actually. I believe that it works the other way around. It's market demand. The car manufacturers will make the cars down to a price. They won't spend 1 penny on a car that they don't have to or that the market doesn't demand. But look at what Audi did with four-wheel drive and the demand that they created from the Quattro to four-wheel drive. Look at other technologies that have come on as a result. And you know what? I think we're about to see that demand created for electric cars with this Formula E program that's coming up as well.
Is that something that Prodrive is interested in from a technology point of view?
Yeah, we're interested in twofold from an involvement point of view, and we will be announcing something about that next month, and also from the development and the technology side, where our engineering division, who do a lot of work for the mainstream car manufacturers, has got quite a bit of technology that's appropriate to that.
We've got to devote some time to Subaru. I think there is no greater example of Prodrive taking a bit of a humdrum manufacturer that very few people had heard of. They made pickups for farmers. And you turned Subaru into something utterly dominant, world championship winning, a sexy, iconic brand. Did you ever imagine it would be so big?
Well, let's give credit to Subaru, the manufacturer, as well, for producing a great product. And we were there at the right time. We had a consistent approach to it. The car appeared in the same color scheme from day one to the 18 years later. We actually drummed it in. We got great product as well as the sports versions of the car. So we did 1,000 units a year of special versions of the car. That paid for the motorsport program every year. We just produce 1,000 units, sell them at a premium, and the motorsport program's paid for. And still today we have reunions down at Banbury. They turn up in their hundreds of Subarus turning up and have a sort of picnic on the lawns at the office. So it's it was a great period of time, and I think there are other manufacturers who could learn a lot from that. And some of the aspiring manufacturers from the Far East and things will look at that and think, I could do the same.
I remember working for you as a lad in the summer holidays, whitewashing a small, incongruous workshop on the other side of the estate ahead of the first legacy body shell coming in. Amazing.
No, it was an interesting period of time. We were sort of, to be part of that right from the word go, and of course be a key part of the involvement with Colin McRae and Richard Burns, their world titles, Petter Solberg afterwards. So it's I look back on that period with great affection.
Do you think Subaru would be interested in returning to rallying? Is it a market that they need?
Well, I know they're looking at it just sort of, to help their customers, because there's so much latent interest, and I'm sure you'll, at a private level and sort of Group N cars and even their new sports car, there's discussions I know about that going out as possibly as a private entry. But as far as factory support and factory participation at the top level of World Championship, I'm afraid those days are likely gone.
Let's talk about Aston Martin. That's been another wonderful success, a flagship brand with a lot of racing pedigree. You got Gulf interested in the promotion again, the classic powder blue and orange colours. Do you look back on that with fondness as well?
Oh, very much. For me, still one of the highlights of the year, even in my rally days, was Le Mans 24-hour race, and I've always sort of yearned after the opportunity to be successful at Le Mans, and Aston Martin gave us that chance. And we've taken it to Aston there. We've won the Le Mans series. Last year we won the amateur class in the World Championship with the Aston Martin, and we go back to Le Mans every year with high hopes of, I think, 3 times we've had class victories there. So Aston's a great product, and to go with a car racing that is fundamentally the same as the car the customer buys in the street is from the showroom is as an important feature.
I remember you saying to me at the end of the race at Le Mans 6 or 7 years ago when you'd won the GT class that you were thinking about a prototype, and everybody's ears pricked up, and you did a prototype. Are you disappointed that you couldn't take the fight to the likes of Audi and Toyota and Peugeot?
Yeah, I think we had to be realistic in the end, and we just we didn't have the resources, the finance to do it. You know, you're up against the spend of Toyota, Audi, Peugeot in those days. It was just a small company like Aston Martin produces 4,000 cars a year, is never going to be able to have the funds to challenge them. That's not to say it might not be possible at some point again in the future, but let's concentrate on GT for the moment. GT
racing is a phenomenon, isn't it? You've got all these great brands, Porsche, Ferrari, Aston Martin, Chevrolet, Bentley now in it. Is it here to stay? Is it going to grow even bigger?
Well, the main thing about that, the interesting thing about that series, and we talked before about how price escalation prices people out of motorsport eventually. You know, it destroyed touring car racing in that period we talked about. It just got too expensive for everybody. You end up with one manufacturer as the dominant manufacturer. And the regulations are partly to blame for that. So if you end up with one manufacturer who has an advantage over everybody else, cleans up, you lose public interest. It's just a fact. Sports car racing is quite novel in the way they balance the performance of the cars. And you have three elements of balancing the performance. You have the weight of the car, you have the restrictor on the engines for the engine performance, and you have the aerodynamics. And between those three elements, you can balance out the performance, as we've seen last year, of most cars. We went to the last race of the championship with three manufacturers there, Porsche, Ferrari, Aston Martin, all within a chance of winning the series, and lap times that were within tenths of a second, and a race that was won. We had races last year won by 1.5 seconds between two completely different cars. A front-engined Aston Martin versus a mid-engine Ferrari. You wouldn't think it was a fair battle, but it's very well done. The ACO have done a great job, as have the FIA in that case, and I think there's a bit of a template for people for the future there.
Looking forward to 2014 and beyond for Prodrive. Exciting projects in the pipeline, I assume. You're always looking on.
There's always something new going on. We've, everyone thinks of Prodrive, and certainly in an event like this, they think of us just as a motor racing company or rally company, whatever your experience is of us. But of course, we have four fairly sizable arms to the activity. As well as motorsport, we have a composites business in Milton Keynes that does a lot of work, aerospace work, marine work, other car manufacturer work for a number of people. That sort of employs nearly 200 people there. We've got our automotive division, which works for a number of mainstream car manufacturers and always looking at new projects, working on a big hybrid project for someone at the moment and various things. And then we have our merchandising and marketing side of the company as well, doing merchandising clothing for many of the Formula One teams. So there's a lot going on, but I suppose the biggest thing that's going to happen to us this year, we're going to be moving. That iconic site alongside the motorway on the
really?
will be no more. We've sold the site to Marks and Spencer's, and they will build a big flagship store there, and we move up the road by half a mile.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Bigger and better and more sophisticated premises?
Not necessarily bigger, better, but I think just more appropriate for our longer-term needs now, because we need to consolidate the business. We need to sort of work in a different way than we did 30 years ago when we first started. So it's a chance to rethink the structure of the business and look at our longer-term plans as well.
It's been a great journey. It's been, as a race fan, as a purist, it's been marvellous to watch all the different disciplines you've achieved success in. Congratulations on the milestone. Here's to the next 30.
Yeah, another 30 years to come, I'm sure of that.
David Richards, thank you very much indeed.